So right here we have the lasso tool. Now there's different ones. So if you have a drop down, kind of like the marquee tool, if you have a drop down, it means there's more options. So if you right click, for me on this Mac, I just double click, there's the lasso tool, polygonal lasso or magnetic one. So the lasso one, think about it as just clicking and drawing with your keypad. And then from there, you could just hit delete to delete an aspect of the image. So if we Command Z that, again, you just click and hover around. So that's how you do that. Basically, if you wanted to get, say I wanted to eliminate just this little musical note here. I did a bad job. You draw around it, hit delete, and now that is gone. So that's technically one way you could just delete part of an image, and then Command Z will bring it back. But also what I do like here, which I do like using, is going to be this magnetic lasso tool. So make sure we're on the layer. Now, what I like about this is that it allows you to be able to mask all around your object, and then you can manipulate and do whatever you want with it after. So besides getting into all the color and drawing in everything, this is a phenomenal tool. So let's focus on something a little bit simple. So let's find Tommy Tune here. And what we're gonna do is we'll zoom in a little bit. We'll just focus on the head. So what we'll do is we'll focus on the inside. Let's do the hand actually. So if we click here to get it started, as we hover around the hand, it's going to automatically make these points here, these little dots. And if we hit delete, we can go back and fix it if it had done something wrong. So all we do is follow the best we can. This one's tough because there's so much dark lines around it. So you got to kind of help it just by clicking every now and again. But as I'm moving over this tough spot, as I move, you can go fairly quickly in some areas. This is going to automatically use the lasso tool and go right around his hand. But again, it's really hard to see the hand because everything is just either black or white in this image. So it's not the easiest image to do this with. But again, you can still see that it's working its own kind of magic to, be able to mask around the hand here. So with the magnetic lasso tool, what you can do, let's find something to get here that's a little bit, a lot of things are just kind of tied up together, but let's find something that's kind of looks complete. Yeah, let's go to this little part of the image here. Let's zoom in, and then all we're gonna do is get it started by clicking, and then you just hover around the image, and what it's going to do, make its own little marks, and it's going to do a really good job. You got to click sometimes along the way, but it's going to do a good job at basically adding a little lasso tool or mask around your image. So all you do is drag over it. I'm going to go quick, so there's going to be some mistakes. If there's a mistake, hit delete, and then all you do is click. But if you go even relatively quickly, it will do a good job at identifying the lines and then being able to, have everything selected that you want here. So as that is, a cool aspect, what you can do is just say delete it, and then you will see the remainder. Or what's even cooler is if you go to the select, you can inverse the selection, delete, so now everything is deleted and you are left with just this part of the image, which is really cool. So, if you have this, basically, you can isolate one aspect of your image. So let's zoom out here. So if I zoom out and then I do Command Z, now everything is back. And then if I delete, well, I gotta hit layer. If I delete, all you have is that selected, which is really awesome. So again, you could do that and keep the little, the other aspects of the image down there as well. But if you hit delete, you delete everything but that. So that's a great way to just isolate and take one image from it, or it allows you to select one aspect or object within an entire image. Let's get into one more, just because this is such an effective tool. You could do the same thing if you right click and use the lasso tool without the magnetic one. And you can just do this except by creating, by drawing around it yourself. That's one way. Or you can go to the polygonal lasso tool, and then that will allow you to click, bring it out, click, and basically you're kind of drawing these long drawn out lines, or short ones if you want. And then that's another way to isolate different aspects. Again, you can zoom in. It's just the resolution is going to get worse as I do that. But as you can see here, this is one way to use the lasso tool. So say I just wanted to get rid of, say I just wanted to get it started, I could just hit delete. And then as you can see, right here, I am starting to get rid of some of the background. So that's one way you could just essentially crop out your background. And if you hit enter, they will connect. So right now that background of that image is going to be eliminated. And then once we get into some of the other tools, you could say grab a color, and then here, I'll just do this real quick for you. Make sure we're on the same layer. And then you could just, add some color around that aspect, which is really cool. And then it's also a quick way of doing it. And then from afar, this will look a lot better. So what we'll do is just Command Z, we'll get back out of here and we'll bring it back to a normal state. But that is, in a nutshell, the lasso tool. And I do find myself using the polygonal or the magnetic one, because the polygonal obviously allows you to not necessarily draw around the image or object that you're trying to isolate, but does a really good job as well. So if you hit enter, that will cancel it. Let's get into the next aspect. So that's going to be the object selection tool. So Photoshop does a really good job at showing what this looks like. What we can do is hit that object selection tool, make sure we're on the proper layer, and we will select this image right here. And it's going to work its little bit of magic. And then now that is another way to isolate everything. Now this is going to basically do as good of a job as it can to isolate this image. Again, you could just delete it, or you can select inverse. So again, that will be Shift Command I. That's one way. So Shift Command I, and then if you delete, you'll isolate just this aspect of the image, which is really nifty. So let's bring it back. And that's one way. So you could do that with any object image tool. Say you just wanted to find Tommy here, you could just select around Tommy and it'll work its magic. And then same thing. Now you have isolated Tommy, but as you can see, it doesn't always do a good job depending on what is all in your image. So you may want to take your time and use your lasso tool yourself. But in a nutshell, that is how you kind of get started with some of Photoshop images. We're going to start working our way down and getting into some of the other elements as well. One of my favorite ones is going to be the crop tool. So again, we have a nice little image as well. But if we wanted to crop this image, we would select it, drag over, select it, and hit enter. And then that would crop our image into something that is maybe working better in terms of composition and just adding those elements. So that's basically how you do that. So that's how you crop an image. Add the lasso tool. That's how you move images around. And then we do have a couple of those shortcuts for you. We will see you in the next lecture.